warming the car up. Be keen to see the kind of pace he's got on this outlap. Burning off fuel, it seems, right now. For his braking zone into turn 1, and an immediate invalidation. It's not his session, this one. JR, he's needing to get things together a little bit more. It's so not working out right now. Neil is about to start his next lap. Great, Madtrav gives me a fully dry weather update for quali and the race, so we should get nice fair racing for everybody. Neil is still warming up that car, but Quentin has definitely started his lap. Across the apex. Confidence goes Quentin. Nice pull into the apex there. Little straight for late braking. I mean, that looked like about 35 meters before he braked for turn 13, halfway point on the track. Purple middle, of course, for himself only at this stage. Quentin staying within strict track limits there, whereas other drivers, particularly Madtrav, completely abused that entry curve. Again, late on the brakes to the final corner, and it's away. Up to the line then, a 27.755 is the new fastest time for Quentin. His teammate Neil is on a lap right now, halfway round as he is. Difficult to pick all the right braking points here. Bet next season they will change all the advertising boardings as well, and you have to re-familiarise yourself with where you are on the track. This is the DHL bit this year. Very final few turns of the circuit. And away then to the line. Neil, what's this time going to be? With just under 6 minutes to go from the final session. 27.530 is your new fastest time out there. Zardi on a time from 5th. Haven't seen Madtrav. Madtrav has now come out for his on his medium tyre run. Be worth having a look at what Madtrav is up to. This definitely is worth a look. Hi to Mango in the chat. He says can't wait for next season. Never mind next season. Enjoy this season. We're only in round 9 so far. Seemingly very early on the brakes compared to what we saw with Quentin. That's not to say either is right or wrong, and clearly not super confident in the medium tyres just yet for Madtrav. Bringing them up to temperature. Now we're on the attack, I'm sure, but there is a little bit of traffic ahead. It's going to be very hopeful that is Duckster on an outlap, and it was. Mango saying he's psyched for the new game. Wow, yeah. Just out of interest in the chat, who's going to be buying GT7? Because that's the next thing that I'm building the Beaver for. I'd love to do some more GT commentary. Nice line from Madtrav, late apex there into turn 13. To over the curbs nicely. One and a half seconds under his fastest time. Great line through, really fast sector. It's all about now closing out the lap, closing out that final corner. Hugs the left-hand wall more than we see most drivers for a straight braking to the outside. Straightens up this final corner and sprinting to the line. Xander has retired from the session, his teammate, and decided that fourth place should be safe. Madtrav P3 on medium tyres is pretty impressive. Not far from his best time on soft tyres as well. And let's see, big Jaime seems to be on a slow one. Is he about to start his proper lap, having done a charge run maybe? Stimps is up for GT7. Excellent stuff. We also want to get some rallycross going in Dirt 2.0 as well. If you're interested, see some rallycross racing. Phantom then to the line, a 28.0 on P4 in the Ferrari. Excellent stuff. So still to set a time in this Q2, Sparks, JR and Dom Rabico. Dom Rabico starts his time now, starting his lap now in the McLaren. Pretty good, considering Don Rabico was very down on this track, begging for us to skip it. So he's doing okay. Neil has the fastest time for Quentin, and our championship leader Madtrav P3, Phantom Jaime, and Xander, your top 6. Rabico will definitely want to get in the mix and into the top 10 here. He's gone for soft tyres. He's clearly full intention. Nice line through final sector. Just one car up ahead. Just one corner to go. It's a yellow flag down there. Into sector 3 as people are coming in the pits. Nothing to worry Don Rabico though. Either the track's not straight or that skyscraper is definitely on the skew. 29.3 for Don Rabico is P11, so trouble for Don. I'm not sure he will get away with that one. Trying to wait for the sector time to disappear. So there we go, 1 minute to go, 1 minute to go. And I don't think Don's going to improve. P11 though, not a bad place to start. Thiago is slowing, so to get an indication on that one. Zardi closing out the lap from P8. And across the line then, a 28.2 is good enough for P5 in this session, but should be safe out there. What about Thiago? He's definitely slowing. I don't think he's going to get on with this. JR, I'm not sure is going to finish the lap in time, is he? Looks like it's too late, unless there's a timing glitch for him, because he's in no hurry to get to the line. Sparks has not gone for a lap at all. I don't know if Sparks has decided to exit altogether. Just waiting for a time update. The checker flag has gone, so he will not finish this one. But Duxter going a lot quicker through first sector. Half a tenth half a second faster than he's been before. He tries to save turn 13, a little bit wrong on the angle, a little bit overspeed, but the banking pulled him back down towards the apex. Rabico, that's enough for him. So some big guys, big quick drivers in the elimination zone for sure. Don Rabico, Vino, that's too much curb for Duckster, and a little bit of rubbing on the wall as well. JR and Sparks will not take part in our Q3, unfortunately. And Simps confirming that Josh, after exiting and rejoining the session, is suffering a timing glitch. I don't know if this lap will count, but he's going to give it everything. Of course, he's got to drive with a certain degree of margin because he's got no ability to rely on a banker lap. Beautiful line through there, not cheating and not leaving much in the way of margin either. JR with a tucked in view on the left hand side of the track, similar to what we saw with Madtrav, using the curb to help break the car down into the corner. Missed the apex in a big way, but will he get to the end of the session with a complete lap, and will it register up to P5? That's how you do it in style from Josh, or JR, apologies. And I think that will be the final lap we will see from Josh and from anybody as we close out the session. Hopefully JR will just retire now and we won't have to wait for his session to end after our session has ended, but I'm sure we'll all appreciate a breather. There we go. And JR retires from the session. Bear with me, everybody. I will be back very shortly, just after I've gone through the standings. So Neil, with the fastest time in Q2, 27.5, but I think we've got some improvement to come from everybody. I think we might even see a 26 tonight. Neil in P1, Quentin P2, Red Bull front row as things stand, but Madtrav will start the race on medium tyres. Phantom on softs, JR, Zardi, Imi on no tyres at all apparently, Xander in 8th, and then two medium runners, not Shumi and Duckster, 9th and 10th. Out of the session though, Tiago, Don Rabico, Vino and Sparks. And back with Webbo into the start of this Q3 session. I think it's going to be, is it Sander? No, it's Matrav, first one out there. Obviously everybody on soft tyres now. Hopefully that intermission has helped solve any issues we might be having with drivers out of sync with each other. Matrav then starts his flying lap, and let's see what our championship leader and generally speaking fastest guy in SAF1 can make of this first attempt. We know he doesn't always go for a safe banker with his first lap. That was nothing safe about that sector. Oh, was that a slight rub on the wall as well? Right on the ragged edge, Matrav. Absolute joy to watch. And just to prove what I was saying about ragged edge, there he was, out of action in this one. In front of him just behind him on track, the next one attacking the lap is Duckster. Stay with him as long as he stays valid. And through difficult sector now, it's the fast snake in the second part of the lap under the hotel, straight across that apex. You see people now that apex doesn't have quite the same bump that we saw on track last F1 season, does it? Okay, it was pitching cars into the barrier, so definitely a little bit of an improvement for Codemasters to make. Duckster finishes off his fast lap, should get the fastest lap so far, a 28.3. Who else is behind him on track? It's one of the red cars. It's Phantom, who didn't make anything of that first lap either. So Phantom and Matrav unable to put a lap together on the first attempt. Quintin goes fastest on a 27.4. And I think his teammate has only just started his lap. What about, is that Imi or Zardi finishing up? Zardi coming close to the end of the lap here. So Quintin, JR goes 28.199 on soft tyres. Big gap at the front there to get onto the front row at the moment. Not Shumi goes straight into that gap at 28.0, and Zardi at 28.198, 1,000th of a second quicker than JR. Let's ride with, I think, Neil. Neil is slightly ahead on track, but Imi got himself a purple first sector. And Neil appears to be going slowly, so we'll rejoin with Imi. I think Neil has had enough of that one. Didn't like that lap. Phantom's in the pits. Matrav is still out, but I think probably on his way into the pits. Obviously a shorter session, time for only really 3 laps at a real rush to get there. Down into the final corner. Way towards the line then for Imi. I've not seen anybody able to really take advantage of any toe. Imi on a 27.9 goes just second fastest. It's super tight between second and fifth at the moment out there. And we're seeing the drivers coming into the pits. So I would have thought one of the first ones out for their next one will be Phantom and Matrav. So Quentin with the fastest time from Imi, not Shumi, Zardi and JR. I do think this is going to change in a big way though, pretty soon. So just under 6 minutes to go on the session. Duckster has got the car turned around quicker than anybody and will be the first one out on another attempt. I would have thought. Here comes Phantom as well. So will Phantom and Matrav stagger this a little bit, or will Madtrav pile all the pressure on himself from one single attempt? Time will tell. I'll keep an eye on when Madtrav decides to come out. Duxter still on that outlap in the Alpine. I think most of the drivers are possibly waiting to do their final lap. Just do 2 runs. But of course, if you ruined your first run, you want to be getting out quickly like Phantom is doing. JR with the 6th fastest time so far. Again, nice banker to build on. And several drivers coming out, including Madtrav at the pits, and Zardi as well. So we've got our targets to be watching right now. Neil appears to be still going around and has not come into the pits. Quite sure on the strategy there. But Duxter will be the first one on the second runs. Unless Neil has disconnected and his AI is managing his session. Duxter then grateful to Quentin for getting out the way. Let's see Duxter's first sector time looks like, and Phantom behind him. Join him shortly. So Duxter much slower. Won't improve on this lap for Duxter. About Phantom. 30.8 staying valid. That's the main target right now, as Madtrav hasn't yet started his next lap, but will do shortly. Stay with Phantom. Close to the wall on the right hand side of the Pirelli section. See his sector, it's a purple sector, it's 58.3. What about Madtrav? How's that lap looking so far? It's going to be a little while before we get an update on the lap. See if he can survive the snake section as he didn't last time. Looking slightly less ragged than before, so looking to survive this one as Phantom finishes off his lap and will join Madtrav shortly. A 28.0 for Phantom, leaving a small margin there to the rest of the field, but it's all about where Madtrav can put himself. Remember, he's on those medium tyres for the race. He's in a great place. He told us last week he was kind of looking forward to this race a little bit, which I'm sure made everybody's heart sink. Purple middle for Madtrav. No care about the curb on the inside. Possible slight hesitation or glitch on the audio on the way out, but this one looking hot from Madtrav. Gets down at, I don't know why we get a DRS beep at that point. No, that's the detection, but it's strange that we get a DRS beep there. 26.9, we have had a 26 time, and Madtrav pole position immediately out there, quick. Quentin won't improve on this lap, at least. Hopefully for him, he has saved the lap early enough to get around. Imee is on a new lap now, navigating that first sector. Gets the car nicely in. And is a quarter of a second faster than he's been before. Enough to see him up onto P3 on the clean side of the track, if he can make that count. Of course, everybody behind him on track has the opportunity as well. Is that a tiny rub on the wall? Let's check out JR, who is faster but is invalidated. So it's all about whether these guys can get through this lap. No, another invalidation. I don't think there's time for JR to finish off the lap, is there? And start another one. He'll give it a go. Duxter down in 9th. Just trying to see if anybody has the option here to try and fight. Possibly Neil has a chance. He's definitely started his next lap. off kilter from everybody else. One of the last eligible laps to start now, as we see whether JR can get round in 16 seconds. I think he will, whether he decides to pit or not. And he does pit, so it's just Neil. I think Neil's the only one who can take advantage of this open track in front of him. Fresh tyres. I think not Shumi might be on a lap at the moment. I don't think Phantom is. We saw him invalidate. So Neil, with it all to do, would love to get ahead of his teammate. Neil just waiting now, nearly 2 tenths faster. Still needs a bit more time. Ignoring the corner, really, the right-hand corner. We go down to the DHL section to finish the lap off. One more major braking zone to get right. How late does he dare to brake? He's got good turn in. That should give him good exit. Slight correction on the exit. Slightly greedy on the throttle. But Neil heading for the line, and it's P2 at 27.4 and gets us to a respectable half a second gap to Madtrav on pole position. But Red Bull 2-3, followed by Aimi in the Alfa Romeo, Phantom in the Ferrari, not Shumi or Aston Martin. Zardi on in his Alfa Romeo as well. JR got an 8th place, but look to JR to be gaining places in the early stage of the race. Duxter in 9th and Zander in 10th. But of course, remember from Q2 that Madtrav will start this race on medium tyres. Have a great Josh said he was half a second up and he invalidated, so very frustrating for him, but nonetheless, good performance from nearly everybody in that session. We'll be underway for a race for you very shortly. So, confirmation of your Q3 time, and the usual suspect at the top. It's Madtrav P1, then Neil and Quentin make it a Red Bull 2-3. Aimi Alonso on P4 in the Alfa Romeo, followed by our Italian Phantom, not Shumi in 6th, Zardi in 7th, the Welshman Josh, JR in 8th, and then Duxter and Zander make out that top 10. We had a 1.4 second field spread across the top 10. Make that a 1 second field spread apart from Madtrav, who is kind of in the next league above, really, isn't he? Frankly, at the moment. But don't hate the player for being good. We've got what looks to be, with the overlay that we had on the screen there, it looked like there was a yacht floating in midair as the seascape bled into the skyline. But we will be underway for you very shortly for a 50% race around Jeddah. I wonder how many people will survive. Let me know what you think. Out of our 15 starters, how many will actually reach the end of this race? The street circuit tends to be high attrition rate anyway at the best of times, but our drivers not particularly familiar with this one, and several drivers actively hating the track in practice. I want to thank you for joining us for the coverage again, and a special thank you to our sponsors, who are Quintessential Photo and Video Works, DR Developments, and Ravico Holdings. And without whom we would not be able to go racing here tonight. A reminder to follow us on socials, to subscribe to the channel, and to like the video as well, please, before we get underway with our race. Check on the tyre selection. Obviously not Shumi, Duxter and Madtrav automatically on mediums. Everybody else on softs, but Tiago and Dom Rabico have chosen mediums. I'm interested to see what Vino, Sparks and Hamrick do on those softs. staying on the lead strategy. So, interesting choice there. Long lap, so only 25 laps overall for you tonight. Hamrick will have been waiting a long time between action to get himself going. There's no real way of getting any kind of rhythm for the race either. You can't exit and go practice. You just have to sit there and enjoy the coverage. Try and pick up any tips that you can from drivers around. Looks like Sparks will, I think he's under AI. I think he's decided not to race with us. I hope that's not the case, but I think it might be. So, who will put up the nearest challenge tonight to Matrav? Will anybody, will Matrav be able to hold his focus out there at the front? Will he even get away comfortably at the front? We've seen before, we've had an interesting one on our hands sometimes when he doesn't quite get away from the start very well. Remember, Kota is a fine example of that. He still recovered to win in dominant fashion. A little bit of a disqualification there as we approach the final corner for a couple of drivers. Xander and Thiago will start on compromised tyre warm-up. Just waiting now for the formation lap to finish. I hope everybody takes it very, very carefully into the first two corners at least. I think that maybe the first 4 or 5, because those walls are tight and close. Plenty of incidents will be expected around the track. Very difficult for everybody. I'm glad I'm in the commentary box tonight and not holding the steering wheel. Best seat in the house, of course, for us here. Just hoping to get you a good angle for the start. There we go. We've got 5 lights on and they're out immediately, and we're away with Matrav, Neil and Quentin getting away nicely. Quentin on the inside, but no, Matrav losing out to Neil, who had a bit of a monster start there as Quentin and Matrav navigate the first corner very, very gingerly. Now they'll go side by side through the next sector. It looks like we've got single file traffic till nearly the end of the grid order, but it is Neil who took the lead. Quentin staying with Matrav here. Those medium tyres, I think, really holding Matrav back at the start, but to just lose 1 place is not the end of the world. People going all over the runoff areas on the track in the background. Looks like Hamrick losing out and slowing at the moment, but still there at the back of the grid. But up at the sharp end, Neil is absolutely dropping the hammer here and trying to get away from Matrav. Perhaps overdoing it slightly, but he knows that Matrav will only get quicker as those medium tyres start to warm up. Quentin half a second back could really do the favours for his teammate by starting to slow down and attack Matrav. Hamrick has been lost from the session after 1.2 sectors of a lap. That's all he's managed tonight, unfortunately, and that's really frustrating for him. Here they come down into the final corner then for the first time, and Matrav is already hassling Neil, and he will get a good long tow as they go down the long start-finish straight, almost straight. And Neil with the fastest lap. A little bit of weaving, just trying to discourage Matrav from having a speculative go. And they go 1, 2, 3. Neil, Matrav, Quentin, Jaime Alonso and Phantom next up. Then JR up to 6th already. So the soft tyres working well. Definitely it was a story of soft tyres being the way to go off the line for our drivers. Hamrick completely leaving the session, unfortunately, as Thiago gets past Zander further back, but we stay focused on the front here as Quentin gets within 3/10 of Matrav, and there's lots of opportunity to slipstream even through the fast snake sections of the track. Riding it out wide against the Pirelli marker boards. Definitely Quentin, a good run here. Will be able to start copying Matrav's angles through that right-hander. Go down then towards DHL, end of the lap. Matrav closing in on the back of Neil. Neil will be pleased that there's no DRS until the next straight after this one, but they're getting close. The top three now starting to pull away. They've got outside of the DRS zone to Imi, who has Phantom close behind. DRS will be enabled now, and but they can't use it until the next zone. So waiting to see if there are any movements from the drivers down into turn one. Seeing anything dramatic. Vino's close to Don Rabico, who's had a brilliant start up to P10. So a quick check on the positional changes. Obviously we know about Matrav, we know about Josh and Neil that have moved up. Nobody having too dramatic a start, apart from maybe Zander dropping down to 4th and is now in the pits for a very much plan B pit stop. But we will now get the DRS train beginning at the top of the order. Neil defending from Matrav and Quentin, and you can see Matrav already making ground before it's even been re-enabled. 3 DRS zones on the track here, just after the end of the first sector, around the number 3 on your track map, and of course away out of the final corner and down the long start-finish straight. Matrav is close enough to start thinking about having a go here. Brilliant, brilliant camera angle as he moves around in the mirrors. Neil was having none of that, but less than 2/10 is the gap for Matrav. He has the first opportunity here to use the DRS. And what kind of overspeed will he get? Neil says you're having the outside, you're not having the inside, but I think Matrav will get it. But Neil defends down the inside, late braking, and they share the track on the way through turn 2. That was fantastic driving from our drivers there. Brilliant stuff as Neil tries to hang on. Quentin might get both of them here as he tries to take advantage of a slow Matrav through the sector. Go down into turn 13. Working the wheel very well. Matrav has hit the wall. Matrav, is that a puncture on the back of Matrav's car? Sweeps into the side barrier, and Matrav with a very dramatic exit from this one. I don't know if he'll be able to restart this race, but a massive puncture. Big for the championship, big for our champion elect, no less as well. And Matrav with a huge problem, and he can't get the car back facing the right way. That was a bit cheeky from him, but you can understand why he would do such a thing. Now he's got a long trip, and we could have a very entertaining race on our hands if he can get himself back to the order. But what's happened to Quentin, who drops behind 2 cars? Quentin down. I wonder if he picked up damage as well. Did they both make contact? As Quentin will go towards, I think he's shaping here to come into the pits. He is at the end of lap 3. Now, is that an indication that the soft tyres were going, or just a problem? I'll have to look at a replay later to see if the problem with Quentin was tied to running into Matrav's error. But Matrav clearly with a puncture. And he's retired. He's retired from the session. Matrav out of the session. And he's also stranded on track. So we may end up with a safety car. Still about half the track to go. No, they won't go any further. We won't end up with Bernd Mailander joining us to compromise people's strategy. Neil with a great start and has capitalized so far here on Matrav's problem. You can see the the tyre markings on the track from Matrav's long journey round to try and get himself back to the pits, but he clearly had a problem and left himself stranded, exited the session. No win for Matrav today, and Neil will be enjoying that, I suppose, for his own championship sake, but potentially feeling a little bit of extra pressure as now Aimi starts to close on the back of Neil, who is suggesting maybe he's headed to the pits. Is he? No, he's just moving to the inside, and Aimi gets past under DRS conditions for the lead with the fastest lap at the same time. Aimi then with the lead of the race, somewhat unexpectedly at this point, but has clearly looked after those soft tyres well. I wonder what type of mood Neil is in at the moment. He's closing with the DRS and they go into turn 13, halfway around the track. Build the speed now. This is the Pirelli section. I think Bry is somewhat shocked in the chat. And yeah, Armin says, did not expect that from Matrav. No, and I don't imagine Matrav was expecting it either. Neil with the DRS open, he's got no helmet on. Maybe that helped him get away at the start. And down the inside then, comfortably under DRS conditions, into the final corner. Neil resumes the lead, but Aimi and Phantom, interesting how these guys suddenly picked up towards the front now that Matrav is no longer part of this race. Phantom looking to capitalise from, I think, second in the championship at the moment. Aimi retakes the lead, and he and Neil swapping positions now. It's going very well. So lap 7, Aimi leads from Neil, Phantom and Zardi. Duxter in 5th on the medium tyres, the highest medium tyre placed driver now that Matrav is out. Quentin has put on hard tyres. Presumably plan B was a one-stop fixing some damage or a possible slow puncture. Rai says that Matrav shouldn't have quit, but with the great lead in the championship, he felt that wasn't worth giving us some entertainment. Yes, indeed. We were talking last week that Matrav White might exit this one, and we'd be starting to talk about actually mathematics to win the championship. Might be changing right now. It's not over until it's over, of course. Phantom starting to close on Neil, but they've both got DRS, so it's not going to be easy for Phantom here unless one of the two drivers in front makes a mistake or pits ahead. Is that Aimi faking a pit entry? Possibly. Phantom would trying to do this all on ERS, but Neil sees him coming and decides to use the middle of the track, as is his right. It's the lead car. Hope to hear from Matrav if we can. I'll check the driver chat as well, see if he checks in. He's actually saying where's the space to Neil. So saying no space given as they were battling. So presumably blaming Neil for that one. I'll have to watch back and check. So I'm being asked about the championship standings right now. I don't want to cut away, but it is Phantom in second on 174, Don Rabico on 146, but Matrav has 260 points. Finished the race, of course, today with 260 points. So Matrav is nearly 100 behind. But sorry, Phantom is nearly 100 behind Matrav, but will of course be able to capitalise today. 7 laps on the soft tyres for the front 4 drivers. This is the closest triplicate of cars on the circuit for you. Neil going to the inside. He likes this move. Another good one from Neil. takes another place. And will this be pit stop time for anybody in the top three? It will not. So we're not seeing huge tyre deg here from the drivers. This stage, bit of a voyage into the unknown for me. Oh, it's Imi. Imi has got a problem going into turn one. Was that a clash between the two leaders, or was that a mistake from Imi? He's picked up a penalty as well. So does that mean that it was an error or a slight corner cutting, late braking issue? But he's slipping back here, 2.5 seconds. I wonder if he's picked up damage. We'll try and watch from a trackside camera if we can. His teammate gets past. Zardi gets past the car. I can't see any damage. No damage to the front wing. So does that mean he's got rear wing damage, I wonder? Or floor damage? Maybe the tyres have decided to let go on him. I can't see a puncture in an obvious manner. But he's clearly slow because now Duckster is the next one to get past him. And there's not using any DRS or anything. Duckster with better grip on the medium tyres and moving forwards, only 4 seconds off the back of the third place driver Zardi right now. Sorry, nearly 5 seconds off the lead pair out there, and Phantom and Neil will now try to get away from the field. Neil pulls to the inside. Is that to say I'm coming in the pits? Yes, it is. So Phantom takes that hint and decides to stay on out there. We know Phantom hasn't done as much fighting in the race as Neil, who was dicing it with Quentin and with Madtrav more notably. So Neil putting on medium tyres and hoping to split this race on the end of lap 9, sorry, and see another 16 out on the medium tyres as the drivers start moving forward. Neil and Imi are reacting well, but it looks like Zardi out of the race. There he goes, another driver with an issue, and yes, yet another retirement. Now we have our first safety car of the race, and that will presumably favour Phantom, possibly if the deltas stay the same, but it's got to be advantage Neil, you would think, who made his stop most recently, as well as Josh there, but Josh is a long way back in the order. Of course, he'll be able to catch all of that back up again and has already made his pit stop. So anybody pitting shortly, it'll be great timing for Phantom, who can make a cheap pit stop. So it could be game on for Phantom, a late surge in this championship. So I do hope you're enjoying the coverage tonight. If you are, make sure you give us a like on the video. We got 14 people watching and only 4 likes, so let's try and improve that ratio, shall we? Hasten to use the R word on a stream. Phantom comes into the pits then. Will everybody decide to do the same thing? Of course, the medium runners will have to go onto hards if they want to one-stop this to the end. We've got Tiago on his way into the pits. Dom Rabico likewise. Neil, I'm sure, won't bother, and will hope to run the delta to the absolute max, try and get back on terms with Phantom, who's already on his way out the pits. So it's working out for Phantom. Phantom resumes the lead of the race, well, gets the lead of the race, I should say, after that pit stop, and the safety car is in operation. Neil, of course, will find out now. Duckster is on soft tyres to the end. That will be a bit of a struggle, but of course a couple of laps under the safety car will definitely help. Severe collision between Dom Rabico and Imi. That's usually they end up with being given those penalties the wrong way round. Dom Rabico may have been hit from behind by Imi. We'll have a see after the effect. Phantom, Neil, Duckster, Tiago, Don Rabico with a 5-second penalty, which he may appeal under the stewards post-race. Then Imi, Quentin, JR, Vino and Sparks, but Sparks is running with the AI at the moment. So really just 9 human drivers left in this race. which isn't too bad given it's Jeddah, but I'd rather not see any more exits from the race if we can help it. Quick look at the race director, shall we? See what kind of warnings he's on. So Phantom, no warnings. Neil, 1. Duckster, 2. So on the cusp of a penalty, Duckster. And Tiago, just the 1 penalty, so 1 warning so far. Rabico, no warnings other than what he's been given, but Quentin on 2. And JR on a single warning at this stage of the race. So very interesting. See how the guys are going to have to battle. See this race out, because everyone will have the second half of the race. They'll restart with full batteries, and the race could come to the soft runners, the current soft runners who started on mediums, if the Duckster coming in, having put on the tyres for 1 lap. Duckster will come in and now give up that opportunity to use the soft tyres to their full extent. Duckster fancies being at the back on mediums rather than having to pit again. So the only driver making that quick medium soft medium switch, everybody else kind of banking on another safety car, you feel. Otherwise they will have a difficult night, a difficult end of this race, trying to finish off the race on the soft tyres. Of course, Duckster pitting now is going to help them, but he's almost caught the back of the field already. So we should be underway at the end of lap 12 here for a restart. So around the halfway point of the track, as we wait for, well, it's not really the halfway point, is it? It's the 1/3 point on the track, the turn 13. Waiting to see what the safety car is going to do for us. From my eyesight there for a second, yeah, it does look cheese or spongish. Maybe. So we should hopefully see the safety car in. The light's gone out. No, they haven't yet. Hopefully they will. Come on, Bernd. Time to come in. Oh, if we hit the minimum point, oh, we go for another one. Another penalty, another safety car lap, unfortunately. So it will split the race in half. And, the drivers will now try and get these soft tyres. Of course, that's going to help the soft runners. And Duckster might regret swapping those tyres over now. But he should be able to push to the end of the race. He's on the freshest tyres in the race. That's a little bit of place swapping is going on. Phantom will lead us away from Neil and Tiago. Neil, I'm sure, fancies a win out here today. As I'm sure does everybody, but Neil has been there or thereabouts the whole evening so far. Cloudy but dry night in Saudi. I'll have to update that particular skyscraper. It's obviously under construction, we just saw. And now the trackside lights really dominating as the night sky draws in. Really attractive design, race circuit and surroundings, of course, here. Rabico and Tiago have moved up 8 places from their start. We will see the end of the safety car, thank goodness, and Vino up 6. So Tiago and Dom Rabico, whoever wins out of those two will be a strong favourite for driver of the day. Of course, everybody pitted now to the end of the race. Soft tyres for Tiago and Dom Rabico. They could have a good launch away from the restart here. We're about to go green. Might be good to watch on board. Tiago needs to close that gap a little bit. They haven't got around the final corner yet. Phantom may decide to go for it at the apex, but he'll be wise not to run into the safety car. No, Phantom is going to make them wait. I wonder if he and Tiago are in a chat together. That would be useful, wouldn't it? If he said, "I'm going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1." Oh, that was close. That was close. It almost looked like 2 launches there. It looks like the front 3 will be okay. We'll survive this restart. Further back though, a launch of the inside. Comes the Alpine, and around goes the Alfa Romeo of Jaime Alonso in the middle of all of that fighting. Vino making places. JR on the defensive. Vino going down the inside. That gap was only ever going to close, and they managed to survive on the way out. Vino will have his teammate right behind him and probably do well to let him go here. As Tiago on the soft tyres, chasing down the front 2, finding himself in a great position to take on this final half of our Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Away we go then. This is the restart lap. No DRS for anybody. JR looking very aggressive on the back of Quentin. Getting right in the slipstream, but there's very little room to manoeuvre at this section of the track. But if you can stay with him and avoid a penalty warning, in a good place to start the next start-finish line hunt of the Red Bull. Big lockup from the Ferrari of Tiago as he tries to get the car into the final corner. Needs to tread carefully on these tyres, and they won't get DRS just yet either, so we'll have some slipstreaming to contend with. Again, JR just dropping back a little bit under top speed. It looks like he's got more downforce here than Quentin and Vino around him, and Neil trying to stay here with Phantom and wait for the DRS. Difficult to make a pass work. Great battles up and down the field. See, Jaime managed to recover after that spin in turn 1. Between turn 1 and turn 2, I didn't see if there was any fault to be apportioned. Tiago just half a second back now from Neil. Again, these soft tyres, they say 3 laps, but they're really only 1 lap of age so far. Should now be able to get to the end quite comfortably, splitting the race in half as they have done. So we should get DRS shortly, but for the time being we will slipstream the top 7 all within a second of each other, which is great to see. There we go, DRS enabled for the next opportunity, which will be the short straight before turn 13, around that end of the first sector line. So it's about surviving this S section first sector. Such a fast circuit. I wouldn't be surprised if the driver's eyes are on stalks. They're not blinking very often on this track. They'll be incredibly tired by the end of it. We've heard Madtrav talk about how hot and bothered he can get just leading at the front of the race. So DRS is enabled. It was in use down that stretch, but not useful enough for anybody at this stage. Top 6, sorry, all within DRS range of each other, but will form a long DRS train Neil will have the clearest advantage on the track. The car with a non-DRS driver in front of him, the first of those. Neil then half a second back as they go into the final corner. Wasn't close enough for his typical move. He likes to run. DRS open for Neil, indicating he quite like the inside lane, thank you, but not close enough. JR with the new fastest lap in P6 at the moment. Thankfully, doesn't appear to be any clear issues with connection during the race. Seems to be beleaguering us in qualifying, but in terms of the race, we seem blissfully in line with each other, which is good to see. Third of a second is the gap for Neil. Will he be close enough to have a go here into turn 13? You could go 2 cars wide into 13, and he thought about it. Thought about running the long high line, but it's a bit of a low percentage move, and he really wants this win to take. I think what will be his first win of the season. Please correct me if I'm wrong and you know better in the chat, but I think that's the case. 9 drivers remain in our race, as we're ignoring that Aston Martin at the tail of the field, who is on AI. Oh, here comes Tiago then, DRS on Neil. Oh, phantom slowing, and is this tactical? That looked tactical. That had all hallmarks of a tactical interchange there between the drivers. Phantom fancying the DRS here from Neil, but will he be too far back? No, he's got a good run and retakes the lead as it gets very busy, and looks like Tiago having an issue, doing a little power spin. Style points are plenty, but lost part of the car there, so we'll have some damage. Let's rejoin the lead of the race. Sorry to see that issue there for Tiago. He drops out of the fray, and Dom Rabico needs to catch this group back up again if he wants to stay in contention for the lead. Neil is 3/10 back. We have got 7 laps remaining for you, and I think this one's going to be a showstopper at the end. Who is betting on whom in the live chat out of the top 3 to take the win tonight? Remember, Dom Rabico absolutely hates this circuit, and he finds himself in 3rd place, but needing to be careful on those tyres. 0.3 of a second separating Phantom and Neil, and Neil will be wise to Phantom's tactics on the last time round as they get DRS down into the final corner. Will Phantom slow again for the detection line? Oh, that was a bit naughty. Naughty driving from Phantom, closing off the braking zone of Neil. And you do need to leave the space. Neil has DRS, goes for the lead once again. And a comfortable pass under DRS that he well earned on lap 19. Sim says Tiago got hit from behind. Armin says the same. Thank you for the info. Thought that was fairly inevitable as everyone was condensing into that turn 1. It is a very, very difficult corner. And a safety car will be back with us yet again. Is that Tiago? I think it is Tiago's car. We got pit stops again for any of those medium runners. It looks like, yeah. Oh, did Tiago go in the pits? No, he's retired on the exit of the pit lane. And the safety car will rejoin back again now. Do we see soft tyres for everybody at the end of this race? Of course, Neil has the most to lose from making the first decision to pit. If he pits now, he will drop down to what, P4, P5? Probably P5. And Phantom could elect to live with the tyres that he finds himself on. Dom Rabico likewise, or they can all brave it and stay on the mediums. Phantom has the obvious opportunity to do the opposite of whatever Neil does here, which you would feel is the likely course of action. Ride with Neil, who slows, staying out, and so is Phantom. Dom Rabico, likewise. You see lots of people have recently pitted, but in comes Imi in 5th place. Everybody else on new or newer tyres. So it's definitely going to be interesting watching Quentin and JR, as well as Imi, wherever he comes out of the pits relative to these guys. I think Imi's going to come out. Is he behind these two? How fast can Quentin go down this start-finish straight? Fast enough to get out in front of Imi. Is it going to be close? It is going to be close. They make contact and sideswiped out of the race. Wow! Quentin will not take kindly to that. Not a good idea to smash into the owner of the league on a pit exit situation like that. Massive, big deal for Quentin, and I'm sure he will have words. Wow, not what you want to see at all, as they're actually under safety car orders. I wonder, did Imi get any kind of warning or penalty for that action? Because that was very questionable. Surely that was a penalty worthy situation. Let's check that one out. 5-second time penalty. It's a very small deal for having made contact there with Quentin and put him out of the race. Quentin gains nothing from Imi's contact and penalty, but it's highly unfortunate. Of course, drivers are always going to put the foot down on the way out of the pits, always, but yeah, less than ideal. This will work out well for JR in 6th place on new tyres. He and Imi. JR will presumably want to dispatch with Imi pretty quickly so that he can get on board with the rest of the leaders before they stretch the gap too far. 5-lap sprint at the end of this race, maybe a 4-lap sprint depending on how Bernd Mailander is feeling tonight. We will, I think, go round for another lap, so I think, yeah, it will be a 4-lap sprint to the end of the race. And we just saw Quentin wiped out by Imi as they came together. Imi coming out of the pits, level with Quentin, both drivers pushing for track position on that turn 3. It all went wrong. So your new order, and by no means do I expect this to be the finishing order: Neil on 10-lap-old mediums, Phantom on 9-lap-old mediums, Don Rabico 9-lap-old softs from Duckster's 8-lap mediums, then fresh tyres on Imi, who has 11 seconds of penalties accrued. JR, no penalties on fresh tyres, fresh soft tyres that is. Vino, your 7 drivers remaining out of 15 starters. Waiting to see if I get anything from Quentin, and hi to Buntis, who joins us fairly late in proceedings, you have to say, but I hope you're enjoying the race nonetheless. Hope you see the end of the race out with us. Make sure that you share the race on socials if you want to get any friends involved to finish off this, what will be a 4-lap sprint to the end, and a 4-lap sprint round a 4-lap sprint with full ERS around the whole around a street circuit is a recipe for action and fireworks, I have to say. Yeah, boss saying he has no words. Yeah, it didn't look good, shall we say. It didn't look good at all. Imi and Quentin coming together on pit exit, causing this 3rd safety car of the race. Donovan says Paolo Quentin. Yeah, certainly was. So might not feel that luck came into it, but It's motor racing, unfortunately. Safety car will come in and we will have our sprint on for us at the end here. So Neil, Phantom, Dom Rabico and Duxter defending from fresh tired Jaime Alonso, JR and Vino behind them on track. This is mouth-watering prospect as we see how Neil feels about releasing the throttle. I think he's already done it. I think they're on their way. I think he's caught several drivers napping here. The gap's opening up, which is better than an incident or an accident any day of the week. But yeah, the restart very calm and collected from everybody. Perhaps drivers feeling a little bit nervous and wanting those big points tonight. JR just trying to get those soft tyres up to temperature. They won't need much through this first sector before they're wide awake and ready to go. Everybody a respectful distance away from each other. Perhaps not necessarily Jaime, who's a quarter of a second back from Duxter. Very different tyre situation here. Jaime wearing the Alonso-like helmet colour scheme, as you would expect. Just impatient to get a move on here. JR will do well to be patient, more patient, I was going to say patienter, behind Jaime after his action a few moments ago. I wonder what kind of a view Josh got of it. Here comes Jaime then. Closing, and we have a VSC once again. A VSC, is that for Vino, who has dropped back from the order considerably? I wonder, has he picked up some damage? Has he hit the wall? Don't see anything, but maybe there's debris on the circuit somewhere. So that neutralised the race slightly for a moment, just as Jaime looked like he was going to get very close to the driver in front. JR then with nothing to lose. You can see all his rivals up ahead of him, but there's only 3 to go now. How many drivers, how many corners can he afford to be patient? We still are under VSC, and this is really ruining our little sprint at the end. We go green though, we go green now. And Jaime very close, but up behind Duxter, who likewise is pretty close behind Dom Rabico. They still have no DRS. That will be for the final 2 laps of the race. Jaime not very protective of his own front wing at this point on the circuit. On the restart, that makes it our 4th restart of the race so far. Neil continues to lead from Phantom, who has not been able to get quite close enough to start challenging, but Jaime is quite the opposite, right up the gearbox of the Alpine of Duxter up ahead. JR similarly close, but as we saw earlier with Mad Trials, quite easy to drive into someone else's accident. So to try and keep enough distance, enough margin for error. Here comes Jaime then. Will this be a move into the final corner or around the outside, depending on what space is given him? He wants that inside line, he really wants it badly, but it's no way through as JR closes right down under braking. He's going to be stuck in a DRS train, which he doesn't want. Neil is weaving up ahead at the front here. He doesn't need to weave just yet. And Duxter then and JR will go side by side with Dom Rabico and Jaime. Dom Rabico getting turn 2 all wrong. Jaime might come together with a driver in turn 3 once again, but Jaime gets past Dom Rabico, who's dropping backwards now. Duxter profiting from all of it. Dom Rabico really slow through here and costing JR considerable time. I wonder if he's got some damage on the car. So Duxter promoted to P3. Phantom 8/10 back from Neil, still can't get on terms. Jaime closing in and dives down the inside into turn 13. Jaime gets by into P3 then, but with loads of penalties to pay off. Duxter dropping back. Phantom is now 4/10 back from Neil, right up at the front of the grid. Let's focus on the leaders with 1.5 laps to go. JR half a second back from Duxter. He needs to make the moves now if he wants to get himself up onto that podium and on terms with Phantom and Neil. They might be too far out of reach at this late stage in the race. but Phantom closes in on Neil, and we saw the kind of tactics Phantom was willing to play earlier on in the race into that final corner. Very much learning from A1 Max Verstappen. Here comes Phantom then. Neil doesn't defend too hard. I think he'd rather be the chaser than the chased for this final lap. So Imi P3 with loads of penalties. JR can't get past Duxter, who also has penalties. So JR playing the patient game, could well be on for a podium here in our 9th race of the season. JR only joining us 2 or 3 races ago, and right up there on the pace. But it's Phantom with the lead, half a second in front of Neil. Closes into turn 13. And now it's all about whether you can make use of that final run down to the final corner. And I can see some games about to be played as we come towards the very end of this race. What a race we've had on our hands. Really special one here at SAF1 Esports. 9th race of the 4th season. Phantom, while Madtrav is away, Phantom and Neil will definitely play. Neil gets a great run out of that tricky turn. DRS will be enabled for Neil. He goes the long way around the outside. How far ahead can he go for the lead here? Takes the lead on just before the final corner. Does Neil? Has Phantom held on to anything to finish off this race? It looks like, I think Neil's going to get it. Neil crosses the line in first. Phantom 1/10 behind. It looks like JR on track has got 3rd place as well, as Duxter is demoted into 4th place. We've got Don Rabico crosses the line in 5th in a track he was dreading. And what a show-stopping finale we had for you there in the race order. Brilliant stuff as the drivers finish off the race for us. That closes us off then. It looks like Dom Rabico was it with the with the driver of the day performance. But hats off to Neil and Phantom for giving us a tremendous battle out there. Brilliant stuff. Neil is very happy with that podium, and Phantom takes the 2nd place despite his best efforts. JR, a dogged and determined race and evening of track action for JR, who comes in 3rd place, and he's very pleased with himself as well. Stay tuned on the SAF1 channel. We will try and get our drivers into a party chat, especially Neil, Phantom and JR if we can. But that is your finishing order. Neil with the fastest lap as well, so maximum points from this race. Congratulations to Neil for a brilliant performance out there. Phantom 2nd place by 1/10 of a second. Then we see JR in 3rd place, Duxter in 4th. Good strong performance from the Alpine driver. Then Don Rabico, I think he got driver of the day from Anthony Davidson at least, in 5th place from 12th on the grid. Imi brings the car home in 6th. Whether he gets additional penalties or disqualifications or quali bans or whatever remains to be seen after the action that took Quintin out of the race. If our drivers are watching, I will try and start up a comms box party now, and then taking you through the DNFs. Quintin, Tiago, Zardi, Shumi, Madtrav, our championship leader, scoring nothing out of tonight. Then Zander and Hamrick, who got about a lap in total combined out of his entire evening at the Jeddah circuit. So yeah, Quintin asks which party. I'll be doing it on the PlayStation, Quintin, and thank you very much for enabling that one. And there he goes, he started this up, so we'll be there with the interviews very quickly